If you guys want some gamer subs, make sure to use code GM for 10% off. Thanks. Yo, what's going on, guys? It's G Miners here. Yesterday, I posted a poll asking which videos would help you guys out the most, and surprisingly, it was pretty even. Majority of you guys wanted to learn how to do low man raids, so I will be coming out with a video on that. But before you can low man raid, you need to progress up to that point if you haven't already. So today, I'm going over how I went from a super casual player back in like 2019 to where I am at today, which includes getting day 1 clears and a few low man flawless runs done too. To keep this video as easy to follow as I can, I'm going to go over the steps I think you should use in order to progress efficiently. I also did make a channel in my Discord server for endgame content, so if you want to ask me anything in there or just come and have some fun with some general endgame discussions, make sure to join the Discord server with the link in my description. The very first step I think people should take is learning every single raid, all of their mechanics, and the roles for each encounter. And if this is too hard of a place for you to start with, that's completely fine. Just try to do the exact same thing in dungeons. It should be easier mechanics and only requires half the amount of players. Part of the reason that I see players never get better at the game is because they always take the easy roles and let others do things that are more complex. Vault in Last Wish is a perfect example. It requires 3 players to know exactly what to do, have good communication, and work well together. But the other 3 players can just sit there and ad clear. I can promise you that if you never challenge yourself in this game, you are going to flatline in your progression. Different encounters also require different skills too, so by learning each encounter and the different roles that you can do, you're learning different skills. Building in the final encounter of Garden of Salvation is a great example of this. You're constantly dodging the boss's shots and working with other players to connect lines and build platforms. It requires you to have good movement to stay alive and teaches you to learn where you should stand in order to rebuild each platform. This is teaching you how to optimize your movement, which is going to translate in literally every aspect of endgame content. In my eyes, you want to get to the point where you are casually able to do raids, easily teach others even the hardest mechanics, and most importantly, get to the point where you can now carry others through each raid. I'm not saying you need to do solo carries, but you should be able to carry 2 to 3 casual players through. And getting a decent team that consistently runs raids, even if they aren't the best, also makes this a lot easier than solo LFGing. But you can always solo LFG until you find people that you like and then stick with them. Also, running a flawless version of raids is a pretty good way to test if you've gotten each raid down. Real quick, before I get on to step 2, if you guys do like this video and get something out of it, don't forget to drop a like and sub down below. Subbing helps me out a ton, it is completely free, and you can always change your mind later. Okay, so now that you are a raiding god, what's next? Step 2 is doing easier challenges like solo dungeon runs. I'm not saying easier challenges to discredit anyone who has done these, only to recognize that there are some harder things that you can do after these, which I will be going over later. I think solo flawless dungeons are the perfect stepping stone into endgame content because it teaches you how to be completely self-sufficient. Also, by learning to solo flawless, you get proficient at playing solo, because most likely you are running the dungeon multiple times before you get the flawless clear. This will also teach you how different loadouts can be more useful than your standard primary, special, and heavy. Double special ends up being super useful in a ton of cases. You also need to learn just to stay alive in solo content. Dungeons never have wipe mechanics other than things that are like timer based, so as long as you don't die to those and stay alive, you are bound to get the encounter done eventually. So basically, you get to play at your own speed while learning to manage your level of aggression, which is also super important. After you end up going through some solo flawless content, the next step that I see most players taking is starting to do masters. So step 3, go get some master vow and master duality clears, and while you're at it, do some GMs. I think it's important to mention here too that if you wait super long into the season to do master vow and duality, your power level is going to be so high that these activities won't be challenging. That's obviously assuming you are playing consistently, but doing them with a 15 to 20 power deficit is going to really show you what it's like to go through a day 1 raid, which is most people's end goal. Things are going to be tankier than on day 1, and there are many more champs, so if you can get clears here, you're in a decent spot. I would say master dungeons are the easiest, followed by GMs, and then master raids. GMs do keep you locked to a lower power level, but realistically, all you need to do in GMs is stay alive and slowly push forward. In master raids, you need to stay alive all the while dealing with mechanics and the extra champs. The best part about master content, as I mentioned, is being in a power deficit. Learning to play and survive while under power is one of the most, if not the absolute most important thing you can learn if you want to be good at endgame content. Yes, you are going to get one shot and deal with champs that don't stun, and an artificial way to scale the game and make it harder in some cases, but it's how Destiny's endgame is built, so you might as well learn it. Part of the reason that normal mode raids and other challenges become so easy for a lot of top players is because once you learn to survive in the hellhole that is being under power, the rest of the game feels like a pillow fight. Moving on to the fourth step, we have low man raid clears. Personally, I think master raids can be harder than 3-man clears and even some duos, but it still seems that most players do master content before they take on low mans. And I think that it just comes down to which ones take more time to learn, and the fact that players struggle a bit more with learning mechanics and switching things up than they do with just difficulty scaling. The reason these challenges make you a better player is because you are forced to learn to play in different ways, and you always need to be on point. 3-man acquisition in Vow of the Disciple was one of my favorite encounters to 3-man because you were constantly moving around, wiping tons of ads, and you needed good communication. But if you were slow or made a mistake, it would cost you, which means you need to learn to play to perfection. These also teach you how to play with non-standard loadouts again, which helps you understand the meta of the game a little bit differently than before. Oftentimes in trios, we would be using double special and different forms of ad clear like swords or exotics like necrotic grips. Most players are so used to the primary for ads, special for majors, heavy for damage that they overlook better options. After all, getting mechanically skilled is only half the battle of getting better, and the other half is learning the game on a deeper level. Damage checks are another thing that make low man clears very hard. Depending on the season and the meta, some encounters will be either super easy or borderline impossible. One thing I see many top players struggle with is being efficient at damage phases, and I'm no exception, so learning how to consistently get out the most damage in a single phase while also taking your ammo economy into account is extremely important. Many times you need to properly stack buffs that you aren't used to using and resort to different methods for damage than you're also used to. Even if you just end up checkpointing to clear bosses and get tags for low man clears, you're taking a step in the right direction. Step 5 is going to be most players' goal in this game, which is day 1 raiding. This is, in my opinion, the pinnacle of Destiny, and I'm sure most people know that by now. Nothing's more fun than dealing with the contest mode challenge, all the while learning new mechanics and adapting to get the best clear you can get. Obviously, you can go for a day 1 clear whenever you want, but I'm assuming most people watching this video are wanting to get to this point to consistently clear raids and progress to get better and better placements. So that's why I'm putting this as the 5th thing to do on the list. Obviously, I think you should go for day 1 clears wherever you are, but after hitting each of the previous steps, I think this is where you should finally focus on getting a solid team together and practicing in other endgame content to prep for the day 1 clear. The biggest thing you are going to learn here is how to adapt to the game quickly. New mechanics are going to be thrown at you that you are going to need to learn on the spot and then develop a strat on how to complete the encounter. There's also a lot of testing that goes into day 1s as well, testing what works best for damage on each boss, and then the best loadouts to use to do each encounter as efficiently as you can. This goes back to where I mentioned how important it is to not just increase your mechanical skill, but your understanding of the game too. Knowing the best buff/debuff combinations to use when certain options are not viable is extremely important, and the same goes for options that can generate ammo for your team when dealing with huge damage checks on bosses. After completing day 1 raids and improving to the level you want, there is one more major area that I think players can use to improve. So I kind of lied, there is actually 6 steps in this video, but let's be real, 5 just sounds way better. And I also imagine a lot of people are just going to go up to step 5 because that's what most people want. But lastly, step 6 is low man flawless clears. I am currently working on a trio flawless garden and duo flawless DSC myself this season, so if you want to watch me do those, make sure to follow my stream at twitch.tv/gminers. But generally, I think for some players, low man flawless clears come down to how much time they have to put into the game. Some top players don't even do these because they don't want to spend the time grinding out run after run, but I definitely think out of anything on the list, this helps you learn how to optimize your play the most. In most 3-mans, you are finding workarounds for mechanics designed for 6 people. So you need to learn these workarounds and optimal strats for each and every encounter, and then perfect them so that you can do each encounter back to back without anyone dying a single time. Even if you never end up getting the flawless clear, you still get almost every single benefit out of this as someone who does get the clear. and most of these low mans also require the use of different classes for different reasons. You might not always be able to run your main character, so learning to play on different characters helps you improve a ton. In general, I've noticed a big trend that better players are able to play each class no matter what, and tend to choose a main based on the current meta, not their comfort. So if you need to get out of your comfort zone, this might be exactly what you need. These are the steps that I recommend taking if you want to go from a PvE casual to a pro. And keep in mind that any path you do choose to take, as long as it gets you to where you want, is a path that you should be on. If you guys already consider yourself a top tier player, let me know your thoughts of my order and progression, and let me know if you took a similar route or something different. And if you guys are anywhere else on the list, let me know where and which areas have helped you improve the most. That's all for this video, guys. Don't forget to join my Discord if you do want to chat with me and others about some endgame content. As always, have a good one. Peace.